January 19th brought along with it Comedy Central's replacement for the Colbert Report, with the debut episode of The Nightly Show with Larry Wilmore. When the show was first announced, they said it was going to be called The Minority Report with Larry Wilmore, seeing as how he was the longtime senior black correspondent on The Daily Show. And in a lot of ways, it seems like that may have been a more fitting title after watching the first episode. However, something tells me that a certain Tom Cruise movie may have had a hand in nixing that title. So we have The Nightly Show, and I will say that I was a little surprised that they went with Larry Wilmore as the replacement for Stephen Colbert. No knock on Wilmore, but I never really got the leading man persona type of vibe from watching him on The Daily Show. But sometimes when thrust into the spotlight, talent rears its head in ways that you wouldn't have expected. Anyway, let's get to the actual show. It all opens up with Wilmore saying, "Tonight, Lee." And my first thought to that is, why the f*** is Ned Flanders on my TV? I really hope they ditch that part of things, along with the good nightly that they say at the end of the show. Petty, I know, but it kind of just felt forced and made me cringe a little. The first segment was basically Larry Wilmore taking on current race issues in America in what I felt was a pretty decently bold way, and I think he did it alright. Certainly not great though, as there were a few jokes that really didn't land, and it kind of gave somewhat of an awkward vibe, as he was new to things and didn't really know how to play off a crowd not reacting the way he thought they would. All in all, the first segment actually had me decently worried about the show. But I'm gonna call timeout right here and just stress that I don't intend to just shit all over this episode being a first episode of a show. Any show out there, especially a show like this, is gonna take a minute to find its voice and kind of get used to the style it's trying to work with. I mean, just look at my own YouTube channel here. Those early videos were brutal. But even on Comedy Central, there's already a prime example of this if you go way back and watch the first ever episode of the Colbert Report. The first episode of that actually felt pretty awkward and forced at times as well. But it grew, it found its voice, and eventually became something epic. Anyway, after the rough first segment, we're introduced to the second segment with the panel, followed by the Keeping It 100 segment later on with that same panel, both of which I thought were pretty good. They brought up some pretty tense issues going on in current society and gave some pretty interesting perspectives on it all. Plus, a discussion panel type forum like this on a Comedy Central show is something we haven't really seen yet to this date. I mean, both The Daily Show and The Colbert Report were pretty much just focused on the host and a single guest for each episode. But The Nightly Show brought in a lot of voices all at once, and it made for some interesting and thought-provoking discussion of current things going on. Like I said though, it's really early, and if I'm just giving my first impression, it's that the first segment was pretty rough, and everything after that was pretty good to get me encouraged for where the show could go. In the bigger picture of it all, it's still early and the show's still learning to walk, much like both The Daily Show and The Colbert Report had to do early in their runs. And it seems like they're going for a little bit different kind of news show with The Nightly Show, rather than just a Colbert clone to fill its place. And I think that's probably going to be a good thing in the long run. Because let's be honest, who could really fill the shoes of Colbert in that role? Anyway, that's just what my takeaway was from the first episode of the show, and I kind of have a lot of optimism for what they're going to do with it moving forward. And for what it's worth, I caught the second episode of The Nightly Show last night, and I thought the first segment this time around was really good, along with another quality panel discussion, so progress already. Anyway, that's pretty much it though, so if you have thoughts on The Nightly Show, comment them below, and that's pretty much it. Let's see where it goes from here. Thanks for watching, everybody.